Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch a Track podcast on the Dude and Grimm Show. Co-produced by IVST. I'm the Dude.
And I am Grimm. And we are returning from a little break today to talk about The Shepherd's Dog by Iron and Wine.
Rough.
Hold it up, man. Dude, because I don't have that one. And you know what I couldn't even find was my nice like gatefold CD of this.
I had that too.
I did too.
Because I actually went to the store like the day this album came out and like picked it up.
I think I
was
did too.
That into it.
Yeah.
I was that into it, man. Yeah.
Because what, it was 2007? Yes.
Yeah. I remember I was living in Chicago, downtown at the time. I was working there and went to the I don't know, probably like Barnes and Noble on the Magnificent Mile, and they had it, and I was like, thank you, I will take that.
Yeah, I remember at that time too, I hadn't really started to buy vinyl again because I didn't know of a real good source for it to get new stuff, and I didn't know what was coming out. And I don't think it was as big as it is now, 14 years later.
Yeah.
And
I certainly didn't buy it on vinyl.
No, I didn't even look for it, but it was like there was still a handful of albums around that time. Like the Shins' Wincing the Night Away comes to mind. But like when they came out, I would buy them and buy like the nice CD version.
Packaging and everything.
Yeah, because it was like you still wanted that artifact because, if it was a band you liked as much.
Yep, definitely. No, I remember getting into these guys. It was when we were in college. And I say these guys, initially it was pretty much just Sam Beam when our Endless Number Days came out. And I remember Stauffer brought it over to your place or to our studio in college that we had in the basement. And he just left it on your desk. And I was like, oh, whatever, I'll check this out. And I saw the cover of our Endless Number Days. And I was like, man, this looks kind of trippy. I'm going to put it in. And I loved it. Like it was one of those things I just put in right away. And I was like, okay, like, I feel like this music was made for me. And it was something, just the chillness of it. I hadn't heard anything like it, even though it's very different in the same vein. It's kind of like a Nick Drake.
I would absolutely agree.
That's what did it for me.
And one thing I have to, I love to give my shout outs about who got me into the music, but I have to give the shout out to you, even though Stauffer left the CD over. Mm-hmm. Clearly you picked it up off the desk and I did not, but you played it all the time. And that was like the thing.
Definitely. Yeah. I have my moments. Not too many of them, but when I do, I do.
Yeah, they're big ones.
It's like they're big ones. It's like Plastic Ono Band, Ziggy Stardust, like big ones. Yeah.
Rocky Erickson, yeah. The solo stuff, Definitely. Not 13th Floor Elevators.
No.
One thing I do have to say is a fond memory is I believe I don't remember when this came out. But I want to say whatever the following summer was, I remember they were basically touring for this and they were on the bill from Lollapalooza because I remember going to that show and that was a good show.
It's a good show. Definitely a good show. Yeah, no, I've seen them live a few times and I saw them live in Chicago so I have two concerts of theirs. This one was at the Metro in Chicago, and it was support of this album. And it had only been out for a month or two. And I actually have this awesome bootleg recording of that show that I was at. And somebody must have had nice, I don't know if it was from the board or what it was, but really good recordings of dude, they played House. I got the lineup here. House by the Sea, Devil Never Sleeps Alone, Boy with a Coin, Carousel, Wolves, just a Resurrection Fern, bunch of really, Peace Beneath the City, Love Song of the Buzzard.
Pretty much like the album.
Yeah, they pretty much played the album, and
you're only missing a couple at this point.
No, yeah, they played a White Tooth Band. They might have. I'm not going to do it right now, but just looking at it right now, I think they actually played the whole album.
Yeah, that's cool.
And and this is one thing that I noticed right away is that very different than, you know, the previous albums. Cause he had, I guess first, I don't know if it's studio, not studio, but you got me this vinyl for my birthday in college, The Creek Drank the Cradle.
Yeah.
And then Endless Number Days. Those are primarily acoustic based. And this one, you hear it right from the first song. And when we get into the songs, we'll dive a little deeper, but you can tell that, okay, this is going to be a very different album. This is not mainly just going to be, you know, Sam Beam and acoustic guitar, maybe with some like background stuff going on. There was a lot of production, a very full album, lots of different instrumentation, different artists on it. And that's something I think he said he really wanted to do for this one. And this is probably my favorite album of theirs. Theirs, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And it's funny because when you said the albums are acoustic based, I thought you said that they used acoustic bass, and I was like, I don't think so, but I can tell you that most of the bass on this album sounds like stand-up bass. To me, like there may be a couple instances, and unfortunately there isn't a whole lot of great information out there about personnel and who played what. There was that interview you sent from, was that Pitchfork?
Right. Pitchfork did an interview in 2007 with them.
Yeah, and he
pretty
talks
short,
about
but good information
who was at least kind of gonna tour with him, and I think you know, and maybe they played on the album, maybe not, I don't know.
Right. Well, the thing is so you had The Creek Drink the Cradle, which, you know, is kind of like, I guess, you know, considering, I guess it's his first album. And that's like, dude, literally like all acoustic. You can hear the tape hiss. Like it's very, very raw. And then Our Endless Number Days, definitely higher production value, more, you know, just more instrumentation, very good. In between that, though, came the Woman King EP. And when you listen to this is, you can hear a little bit of progression. And there's more, you know, and the one song that I'll say stands out is the last song on this, and it's called Evening Ground, Lilith's song, where there's a lot harder. Like it starts off and it's got a nice groove to it, but then this like electric guitar comes in that you've never heard like in an Iron and Wine song before. Sure. And it was just, I remember hearing that and that being one of my favorite songs because you guys got it for me for my birthday. And I was like, man, this is kind of badass. And then like a year or 2 years later, they come out with this album and there's still nothing on it quite as hard as that. But just the overall orchestration of it, you kind of get an idea of like what he wanted to do. And man, this album is so polished and just, it's got so much going on, man. It really does.
But you know what's interesting though? To me, even though the album is really a sea change in what the sonic possibility was for his music, it wasn't like Dylan going electric.
Yeah,
because it's still, even though it expands so much, and I like this about it, that it's still primarily based on acoustic instruments.
It is.
I would say there's only a handful of electric instruments even used on the album. I know you hear an electric guitar in a couple spots, pedal steels on there.
Yep.
The Wurlitzer electric piano, which I was going to highlight later, makes a really nice appearance. And maybe an electric bass in a few spots, but for the most part, it's all pretty acoustic based music. But it's just, they did such a wonderful job recording and producing it because it sounds just so thick and enormous.
It does. Yeah. Well, and like you were saying about those electric instruments, it's more used to accentuate little parts here and there. It's not the foundation of a song.
Yep. Agreed.
And it works so well with that kind of, obviously with Sam Beam's, like, you know, the folky sound. It still has that rich characteristic, right? It's not taken over. So I feel like all the things that they do, all the new elements that they bring in, just kind of like enhance it. And the interesting thing is, though, is he's talked a little bit about his enhance. Exactly. Just enhance it.
Yeah.
It's like those, videos in the 90s where it's like you watching a movie in the 90s and they're like, oh, could you just zoom in on that a little bit?
And then
they
you
zoom in on it and it's like, oh, it's perfect.
And it's perfect. Yeah, it's actually better than it looked before. Yeah, I know.
It's amazing. Yeah. Which is pretty much where they just hit the enhance button on this album.
Yeah.
Obviously. Just like all you should hit the subscribe comment below.
Which is akin to the enhance button for our potential careers.
It is. It is. But he's talked about his recording process a lot. And I think earlier on, and when you look at like the Drink the Cradle and even Our Endless Number Days, he created a lot of demos for those. And I mean, you could argue that the Drink the Cradle pretty much was like just demos.
Yeah.
But he lays down the basic acoustic track of him playing acoustic and then singing and whatnot. And actually I have on Our Endless Number Days on this vinyl, the second disc is like all the acoustic versions, which is pretty sweet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But the whole album's acoustic anyways.
I know, which is kind of funny, but it's like, but here's the thing. It's literally like just him. It's like the demo version.
It's not exactly like when Clapton did Layla on his Unplugged show. And it was like, wow. Okay. This is acoustic version. Yeah. But there's and I don't know if this is still available. I think I either bought this or I don't know what happened when iTunes used to be iTunes, but there is a what do you mean? Just called like isn't iTunes anymore?
No, because it's Apple Music. It's not even iTunes. Yeah.
So is it taking as much of a turn as say MTV? Is it like to the Real World Road Rules phase, or is it still?
It could be going down that road. It's hard to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely like not so much videos anymore, more like remote control.
Dude, I got YouTube TV and they have this thing. I think it's called like MTV Classic. And I think they actually play music videos on it now. It's pretty sweet. Mm-hmm.
That'd be amazing. I'd really, where were we when we went to,
this is not a plug for YouTube, but YouTube TV is kind of badass.
Yeah.
It's really good. You should check it out.
I'm going to. But yeah, dude, when we went down last year for spring break, they had like some weird thing like Roku TV or something, and one of the channels was MTV Classic, and dude, me and Lisa would just sit there at night and just like watch music videos. It was awesome, dude.
Dude, you're like 10 again. Right?
I know, it was amazing. Sweet. Yeah.
But so anyways, I got this. So I don't know, EP or whatever it is, but basically it's an iron wine and it's just called Fall 2007. And it's essentially 8 songs off the Shepherd's Dog that are just the demo. So it's just him acoustic playing them. So it's Devil Never Sleeps, Boy with the Coin, Love Song of the Buzzard, Innocent Bones. It's pretty cool. It's, some good stuff. And so I imagine those are probably what he kind of played when, he was, showing the songs to other people.
Yeah.
But I think he even said, and maybe it was in the interview on Pitchfork, that, he recorded demos like he did acoustically himself, like he did for his previous albums. But he said he also kind of left things open because he wanted to, he knew he was going to bring other people in to contribute and do stuff he couldn't do.
Yeah. Right? And if he's going to do that, you got to have space for them to explore.
Leave a hole. Yeah.
Explore the space.
Explore the space. Exactly. And he even said, working with other people, he hadn't done a ton of it before, but he said it was really great because there's like kind of happy accidents just happen. Right.
Well, and that's one of the things that a lot of people talk about in the recording process. I know in watching the Anthem to Beauty DVD about the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia gets like super geeked about that, about like these things that just happen that nobody planned on, and it ends up being like an integral part of whatever. And that's awesome. Great. I mean, that's how like the creative process should work, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's all about.
For as many times as like something gets screwed up, I mean, something goes right sometimes too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you just didn't know.
Like the Dude and Grim show.
Said,
you know, the first round of the Dude and Grim show just got off to kind of a rocky start, but then here we are again.
Look at us now.
You know,
we almost have 600 subscribers.
Yeah.
That means almost 600 people have looked at our faces and been like, you know what?
They're not the most
what,
terrible looking people I've ever seen.
I want to see what these guys have to say next week about an album I don't know anything about. So, or maybe you do. I don't know. Who's to say?
Speaking of which, in the comments section, give us some ideas for albums, because for as much music as we like, I mean,
we need variety.
We got to think now. It's not just, there isn't just like the obvious ones just sitting there waiting to be reviewed,
Exactly. Like all the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd albums. We can't just do that every week.
Yeah.
As much as we might want to. But anyways, back to Iron and Wine. So one thing that, at least for me, that I also gravitated towards when I started listening to Iron and Wine was I love the acoustic sound. But dude, his words and his lyrics are freaking amazing, dude.
They are
amazing. Dude.
And one thing in the interview you sent, which I appreciate, because there is not what I'd call a large wealth of information out there about this. But he talked about some of his songwriting process as, how did he say it? Instead of like trying to explain something, he's more like describing a scene.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really interesting way to say it, because I thought the same thing you did. Like sometimes the lyrics, I like them, but I couldn't hear that phrase and be like, oh, this is, clearly about economic recession in 2008. Like they're just like, I don't.
Exactly. No, the quote that I have, I think you're kind of referring to it. He says, I like writing in an illustrative, descriptive way. I prefer describing to rather than explaining.
Yep.
One, I rarely have anything to say. It's much more interesting for me to discover some meaning that you didn't know that you could create. So he's like, I like throwing images together, which create meaning if you listen to them one time, but if you listen to them another time, it might mean something completely different.
And it's like the whole thing about art being in the eye of the beholder, right? I mean, it kind of really lends itself well to that idea.
Lots of different interpretations. And, I kind of brought this up to you offline as we were I was doing research for this. I just looked up like Sam Beam interviews 2007. And there was like this 2-part interview that was god awful. The person asking the questions was asking him just like on the spot, like, can you basically saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically like, all right, pick out some of your lyrics and tell me what they mean. And it's like, dude, come on, man. Like that's the whole thing, man. But that's what he's saying about he prefers describing rather than explaining. Like it's supposed to be open to interpretation, and different things, mean something at different times. They just do. So I really like the way he puts words and images and things together that you normally, just wouldn't think go together. I mean, dude, even the name of the band, Iron and Wine, is kind of like this. I never think of putting those two, things together. I don't.
Yeah.
But it sounds great, doesn't it?
It really does. And because one is, I almost think about it as like man and woman. Like one is more beautiful, polished, and the other is basically just completely utilitarian and looks and smells like shit. You choose which one. Much like Nicholson's Joker says, if anyone else ever calls you beast, I'll cut their heart out.
Exactly.
To Kim Basinger.
Well, another thing, and I believe I'm right in saying this, I believe he drew or painted the album cover for this. As long as
I think he did more than
I think
like several of them. I think.
Yeah, I think he's done Our Endless Numbered Days and everything. It's like, dude, this guy's got some freaking talent, man, because that's some good shit.
Well, the Woman King EP is actually not a photograph. Like he painted that.
You serious?
I'm kidding. No, no, I'm not.
At least I'm looking. I'm like, damn, I don't know. I'm a photographer. That's pretty.
I know. I just say, you got to throw things out just to see if you're even paying attention.
Dude, I'm a gullah bull. I mean, even a gullah calf. So, Wayne's World reference there. Yeah.
That's got to be 2.
I think it's Wayne's World 2.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
like the deleted scene. No.
Like the deleted scenes, Jeff. So I think we
Tracks?
should probably get into the tracks here, Graham.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of these tracks. So we start off track number 1. Isn't this a lot of fun? Pagan Angel and a Borrowed Car. Very interesting title, by the way. But kind of like I said earlier, you just hear the first song and you're like, okay, this is going to be very different than the previous 2 albums.
Now,
right?
one thing I wanted to say, but now is really the time to say it. I love how in the production of this album, that first guitar riff is done in a way that sounds like it's going to be his first EP or whatever. It sounds like it's coming through a radio, and then it just
so far back, and then
it's like the Wizard of Oz when it goes to color. I mean, it just explodes.
1,000 Petal Lotus.
Oh yeah, dude,
all over
thick
your face.
air.
Yeah,
just
no, it is really cool because it's also one of those things that. And I'm sure somebody's done it out there. They like put the CD in and they're like, oh, I could barely hear it. So they turn it off,
and
right?
then it just yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I didn't do that, but I'm sure somebody else did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the way it punches in. And right away, again, you can tell it's going to be very different than the previous albums. Production value is much higher. Song really moves. There's incorporating a lot of different instruments. There's a nice violin part in the middle. I thought maybe they could have made it a little more predominant in sections. But
I thought I read somewhere that somebody said it was a tack piano that was in there. I didn't hear.
There is a piano.
I did not hear a
but there is
tack piano, but I definitely heard a piano. And being a tack piano owner, I think I'm in the right to say that.
Of course he is. Just feed his ego.
Featured on the Bob Dylan Highway 61 Revisited episode, if you'd like to know more.
Exactly. Feed his ego in the comments below.
No, please don't.
Yeah.
I'm full.
But dude, you can already tell that, I mean, there's so many layers going at. There's piano, multiple guitars, violin, all the percussion, multiple layers of vocals going on.
And dude, the percussion is so... Like I said, it's so much of it is acoustic based, but at the same time, it just sounds enormous.
Yeah.
And the acoustic bass, stand-up bass. Right.
Now, let me ask you, like, with the percussion, I'm being a layman, I just call them like bongos. Like, what is that what they are? Or is there like an actual other name?
Oh, there are many sort of hand
I'm sure
drums.
The djembes.
I don't know if you remember when Leifer picked up that djembe in college. So there's probably djembes, maybe some congas. There could be some congas. Bongos may be used. But a real percussionist, there's a ton of different drums. I mean, dude, there's this thing called the talking drum that you can basically like kind of like tension it as you're playing it and make it change pitch, and there's all kinds of cool stuff. So I don't, of course, since there's no information out there, I don't know exactly what was used. But it sounds like a lot, like it's a pretty big variety. And some of those drums have a real deep sound to them, much like Leifer's djembe, depending on how you hit it. So... I mean,
hit it hard, man. Hit it hard. All right, moving on. White Tooth Man. This is so there are songs on this album that do flow into each other. This is not the first couple songs don't.
That is correct.
This one is interesting. It kind of has a weird fade in to it.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch
is this
of
the one?
Sitar.
Yeah, that's the one because
in this shit.
I mean, I've listened to this album a lot of times, but of course, unless you're talking about like, the White Album, like I don't go into these things blind. I always give it a, just a good refresher course.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There were things that struck me that I probably picked out at the time, but hadn't thought about in a long time. And I like the sitar part isn't amazing. It's really just hitting a note, but it's the character of it in the way it, because there's another song where I think I took a note where he's using a banjo, but he's playing just notes on the banjo instead of plucking a banjo how you would think. And so it has this almost kind of an eerie tone about it, which is what I think the sitar does for this song.
Oh, totally. It definitely gives it that eerie tone. And I just kind of wanted to point at like some of his lyrics again. You know, he paints these. I feel like in this song he paints sort of some interesting portraits of characters in this. I don't necessarily want to say a story, but it's little peeks and things into people.
But in this one, the plainclothes cop comes up a few times.
Dude, said the plainclothes cop to the Indian chief, I've made nothing but an honest mistake. The postman cried while reading the mail, and all we got was trampled in the Christmas parade. Like, dude.
I wonder if that's a reference to the massacre at the Italian Hall in Calumet, Michigan in 14 or something.
That could very well could be interesting. I mean, dude, Sam Beam's a very well read person, historian. He was a professor somewhere.
Yeah, I thought I had heard that before.
Yeah.
I also do really appreciate the line that it says, "And we all got sick on a strip club meal."
Dude, he does have some good.
That's great.
Yeah. He's got some. He's not. What I like about it too is he's not 100% like PG.
No,
he's not he's romantic in so many of his lyrics, but he's also brutally honest a little bit too.
And you can relate to that because sometimes, you know, as you're rolling through Gainesville, the breakfast that you have at the Cafe Risque does not sit with you particularly well, dude. You know?
Dude, Cafe Risque.
That's what my friend said.
Yeah, he's a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
So, track number 3, Love Song of the Buzzard. Now, Grim, this, I remember when I got this album, this was the first song that grabbed me, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and I think because it sort of reminded me a little more of like the previous albums that I'd listened to. It just has a little more, it's a little slower and chiller, but it has this, like, I like the smooth sort of bongos percussion that kind of move the song along.
Mm-hmm.
The flow of the song, it has this real smooth kind of soft flow to it.
I like the sound of the room. I mean, you can hear that in a lot of stuff. It has a real warm tone. Yeah, it
feels real warm, man.
Whether it was done this way or not, you definitely picture them all in the same room playing.
Totally. I think there's an organ in this song too.
I think you may be right, my man.
Yeah. And again, this, some of the lyrics that the ones that always stood out to me in this song that I just feel like don't go together and go together so well is a tattoo of a flower on a broken wrist. Like that's just such a interesting, you know, I don't know.
It doesn't sound like it should go together, but then when you break it down, you think, okay, if you have a tattoo of a flower on your wrist, you may have made decisions in your life that would lead you to have a broken wrist at any point.
It's possible. So. Yeah. Who knows?
You know, you're holding a cigarette, probably a 100. So
yeah, probably. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Marlboro Red. All right. But this song followed by the next two,
dude,
they're my 3 favorite songs, I think, on the album. And part of it is the way they flow into each other.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this like reverse delay kind of weird sound transition, and it goes right into Carousel.
I'm glad to hear that that's that those 3 are your favorite. Because, dude, that part of the album is my favorite too. And Carousel may be my favorite song on the album.
I know.
And it's interesting because it's really slow. But there are so many things I like about it. And one thing that I knew, but it was very good to get confirmed by that article that
I know
you're
going to say, but I can't wait. Yep.
His fucking voice through the Leslie.
Yep.
On fast speed. He doesn't mention that, but dude, it's on fast speed.
Fast.
I was almost going to try to do a demonstration of this, but the thing about Leslie speakers is they're very powerful. And when you're doing it with like the organ that I have back there, that's fine because there isn't a chance for a feedback loop. But boy, you try to plug a mic into that thing and like things could get ugly real quick.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like that was the best thing to illustrate about why I like that song.
I think so. And to me, I've always loved the way I of course I didn't know like the technicalities of it, but
the way his voice sounds.
It has this sound almost like he's like sort of singing underwater.
Well, and right? I think he said that the rest of the song was kind of like, I don't know if it was supposed to sound like, but it did. And one of the other big contributors, and I'm gonna take another little video here that we can patch in what we're going into, but is the one and only.
You're gonna edit this one, right?
Yes, the one and only Wurlitzer electric piano, as you can see here, and it just has a nice little thick vibrato.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
Sounds so good.
I mean, there's a little buzz there because I don't have thousands of dollars
nice rug
to redo it like they do.
And I love those. I just love the opening lyrics. He's like, almost home when I missed the bottom stair. You know,
I don't know what that means, but
it's kind of
like that feeling though when you're almost home.
Yeah. And he's like, you were braiding your gray hair. It had grown so long since I've been gone. You know, it's one of those things. There's a lot of things you could think about and interpret into it. And I'm not going to get overly poetic, but it's always, the way words fit together and sound together, it's great. And I think they use, I want to say there's xylophone on this as well.
Yeah, I was going to say marimba too.
Or marimba.
Maybe, and I have one of those on the wall too, but we'll kind of hold off on that because the whirly is really the sound to me. But yeah, that marimba comes in a key part with kind of those descending lines.
Yes.
Like I didn't want to play exactly what's on the song because I don't know. I mean, you can't copyright chords and notes, but
you can.
And when you're worried about really monetizing something to clearly the level that this is going to be at, I mean, we can't afford to have our potential retirement funds messed with in such a way. Not at all. So,
yeah, I mean, who needs a 401k when you have the Dude and Grim show?
Yeah, it's a 501k.
Yeah, 420k.
But goes right into
great transition. House by the Sea.
Yeah. And I believe that's the one where they really said has that West African sort of influence, because that was one of the things
they did
that about this album, I guess, is that sort of influence, which was I guess I didn't think about it when I was first listening to it.
It's not as apparent in the, at least for me on a listen, as, you know, you could say how sort of, you know, those type of influences like Graceland or even like the Talking Heads or some Arcade Fire stuff, right? Like it didn't have that as much, but there's little accents and touches. There are.
Well, and then once I read that and I listened to it, I thought about an album. It's coming up a lot on this one, but our good friend Leifer gave to me, which is called Kulanjan, and it was by Taj Mahal, who, you know, Taj Mahal. He was on the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus.
I do.
Great blues and R&B man in his own right. But he did an album around the time we went to college with West African musicians called Kulanjan. And when you listen to this album, you can hear just the, like, dude, the sound that they have in this album. It's like that sound. I don't know how else to describe it, but there is a lot of similarity there. And not to say that I have a huge, vast knowledge of, you know, the West African music scene, but Kulanjan.
You can hear the influence.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, then we move on. Innocent Bones. And not that the album has like been rocking out or hard or anything to this point, but it's had its moments of being upbeat. Things kind of chill out with this song. It's it's pretty simple. There's a nice piano in it, but it kind of gets. It's almost like this modern day. It talks about Cain and Abel in the lyrics a lot. He talks about Cain and Abel, and it's almost like this sort of modern day version of it. But I have not delved too deeply into it. But a couple of the lyrics that have always stood out to me. One is, "And how every tongue that gets bit always has another word to say." Ooh, and then good. the other one though is, "There ain't a penthouse Christian wants the pain of the scab, but they all want the scar." Like,
oh wow,
that one's good, man. That one's real good. Yeah. So, but at the end, dude, when he says, "How God know if Christ came back, he'd find us in a poker game." That's kind of a cool one too.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some nice lyrics in there that are open to all sorts of interpretation. We're pretty agnostic here, right?
Yeah, or I'd consider myself an unrestricted free agent in that realm.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Definitely.
Dude, Wolves. Parentheses, the song of the shepherd's dog, which I always think of it as that's the title, because that's the lyric that, that you really cling to.
Yeah. So it's almost a self-titled track,
It is. Now, one thing, some other influences that I didn't immediately think of, when they talk about reggae and dub. Okay. And they cite this song specifically. And of course, you read this and then you listen back to it and you're like, I get it now. Because there is this kind of slapback delay in the whole mix, which is kind of like the dub thing. But then there's other things where I think it's the piano will do these things and it gets that, which is totally characteristic of dub. So, you're not listening for just like the scratches like reggae, but there are these elements that shine through, and it's interesting to listen to it with that lens, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. I felt like, to me, this is the weirdest song on the album. It has so many strange instrumental sounds.
I know,
and I feel like his words and his lyrics. I won't even say his lyrics, but his words in him singing, I feel like that's almost what drives the song, and the instrumentation sort of kind of follows along, and instruments sort of fit in kind of where they can. It's to me, every time I listen to it, the song, I really enjoy the song. It sounds very unorthodox.
Yeah.
In kind of its structure. And that's one thing that just, really stands out for me, but it also works too. So I like the Wolves, and I like the Shepherd's. I like them both, and the Shepherd's Dog. So
now, what do you think about the next track?
Resurrection Fern. This is kind of, I say it's more of a throwback.
Dude,
I think it's kind of like getting back to the basics, right?
It is, but is there, because I really want to hear, there is a very specific other Iron and Wine song that this song, to me, they go hand in hand. Like, every time I hear it, it totally reminds me of this other Iron and Wine song. Name that tune, dude.
Well, it's probably off our Endless Numbered Days, and
could be.
I'm not going to say no that it doesn't, but off the top of my head, I can't think of the song. But I would love to hear what you're going to say, because I want to say when I was
South Georgia. Yep. Every time, I mean, and it's, I'm by no means am I saying that. I'm not going to pull out some musical BS and say, well, this one does this and this chord change, but there's so much about the way the chord changes are. It's got a real melancholy sound. And it just, I don't know why, but to me, I could almost hear one and for a second think it's the other.
Yeah, I could
And
definitely.
that's not a criticism. I like the song, but
I like Sodom South Georgia much better than the song, but yes,
yeah,
I can.
Papa died smiling.
Oh yeah, I like. Here's the thing: Sodom South Georgia to me is a little darker than Resurrection's Fern.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I kind of gravitate towards the dark side. So
I understand.
yeah.
So
well, then we move on to Boy with a Coin, which I believe is the single, or only single.
I don't get
All
that.
right, what other song would you pick for the single though?
Fair question.
Timing wise, it's probably what, 3? I'm just guessing 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Thinking,
Hold on. No, I'm just looking at something.
yeah. Just looking at it.
Is it Devil Never Sleeps?
That could be a single.
That's what I would have. That's what I would have
4 minutes.
That's what I would have.
I can see that. I think
I just think the Boy with the Coin is a good song, but it's to me, it doesn't. It just does the same thing. It kind of it's repetitious.
Well, singles like that, but yes.
Well, but even more so. I mean, it's not like it's like, oh, it does your standard blues progression and just goes over and over. It just does it. I mean, it kind of just does that same thing, and it's a good song. I like the pedal steel in it and all that. But I just for some reason, for me, I'm thinking to myself, if this was my album to release, I don't know that would have been the one I would pick. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not against you there, and here's the thing: Devil Never Sleeps. I think that would have been a really good single. 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Now,
perfect radio length.
Perfect radio length, but it's a little short. Short, but I like it. Other than that, I don't know. It'd be tough to find another song that I would go with. I mean, that's not to say that. I mean, there's many songs that I like more, but if we're talking about a single, it would be tough to pick one. But
yeah,
but I enjoy Boy with a Coin as a song. But like you said, it is repetitive. I do like how upbeat it is. There's they do some cool things. They got the clapping, I think, that moves the track along a little bit, and there's also some reverse sounds, which they do some reverse stuff in this album, a fair amount, which is pretty cool.
I also do like the fact that, and I don't even know the full line, but I've always heard it that he references a buzz cut in that song. And I just, anytime you're going to reference like not just a haircut in general, but a specific haircut, I'm just kind of like, all right, dude, I'm with you.
It's like Buzz, your girlfriend.
Woof. Yeah.
Yes.
So, dude, Peace Beneath the City. Now, this song seems kind of like disjointed almost at times and sparse, but
so we just kind of moved beyond Devil Never Sleeps because we kind of covered that a little bit, or just making sure.
I mean, dude, once you talk about the buzz cut, what else is there to say? It's just like game, set, and match. Like if I was holding this mic, I would have dropped it right there.
Yes. Mic drop.
But dude, that when I played earlier the Wurlitzer example, they turn the vibrato up. Well, and I think I did when I was playing it, but they turn the vibrato up all the way. And it's just really it gives it there's just that pulsating kind of it's just trippy, dude. It's like the piano sound in No Quarter, although that's a Rhodes. Ooh. But you know what I'm saying? They just that
it's like that.
Yeah. Just that.
Well, dude, to me this is like, I know what you're saying. This is probably the sexiest song on the album.
Oh, so hot.
So sexy.
And I do, sexy. For another weird thing that he brings up, and he says, give me something in a Japanese car. I like that line.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah. Set me up. Good products.
You're talking a Mazda or what? Yeah.
Yeah. But dude, even like his vocals in this song almost sounds like he's like sort of singing it's like a tin can or something. I just like the effect on it. There's again lots of layers, multiple guitars. I believe there's a sitar on this one again, bongos, djembes, whatever you want.
Probably the talking drum.
Probably. I mean, why wouldn't there be some strange synth sounds?
I don't think there's any synth on this album. I could be wrong, so don't. And of course, since there's no information out there, cannot verify that. But I don't think. I think any weird sound is using like a delay or something.
Sure. Yeah. That. I just assume that it's a synth because it's just, as a novice, it's easier just to say that. Which, dude, I just bought Spaceballs on
it's a
Apple
synthesized
Music.
sound.
Yes, that. Anyways, last song off probably one of my, this song was on the soundtrack of one of my favorite movies of all time, Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1.
At Kristen Stewart's insistence, by the way.
She's
for the prom scene. I mean, yeah.
It's probably one of her best parts.
Oh.
Robert Pattinson.
Or only.
No, it's not one of her only.
Oh.
But yes.
Team Edward or Team Jacob? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Who?
Wasn't that the old Twilight thing? Like Robert Pattinson versus Taylor Lautner. Like, who did you want her to end up with? Like, are you Team Edward or Team Jacob? Come on, for real. You don't.
Oh, fuck. Oh, I was sick.
I know because you're really into movies and film. Like, you have to act like you don't know about Team. And dude, it actually probably isn't even Robert, but I know it was Team Jacob was like, one of them.
It's like, oh, I've never seen them. Don't look. I have like the triple deluxe box set over my left shoulder there.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Twilight in the background there?
Yeah, it is, dude. Yeah. Flightless Bird, American Mouth.
I do, despite all the, mockery, I do like the fact that, like, of all the things that they could have, or she could have been insistent about, it was putting this song in the movie. Like, that's at least shows some good taste in music.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And it's, I do, I'm not sure how well the song fits on this album.
It's Edward, Team Edward or Team Jacob. Is that what I said before?
I don't know. They're both assholes. But one thing I do like about this song and the structure of it is it starts very simple with just like acoustic vocals and I think a little tambourine in the background.
And it really builds. I know.
Freaking until the end.
Again, to me, that's a really good ending song for an album.
Sure. Yeah,
we discussed, I think, a few weeks ago, Parquet Court's newest album, and in similar fashion, they kind of end with a ballad that starts sort of so, and then by the end, there's all this other, and it just builds and builds and builds,
and it just explodes in your ears. Yep.
Yeah, then you got to clean your glasses. I don't know.
I don't know. But it's kind of a. Not that I would say this is a dark album by any means, but
I know what you mean.
Very hopeful.
Yes, song. Yeah, that man. Yeah, that's a great.
I'm a wordsmith.
Describer. Yeah, apparently.
Slow tongue fox over here.
So, the only question left on my mind. What's your scratch? And now I know we had a little time off. We probably don't know where we left off, but I'm gonna give this one to you because you actually had the vinyl, and I was like, oh, I couldn't even find my CD like a real putz.
Dick.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're gonna go into overtime. We're going Islanders Capitals. I'm going with track number 8, Resurrection Fern.
I didn't hear the siren because I'm scratching the boy with the coin.
Oh, man. Wow, really?
Yeah.
Really? You're like, no, man, I want to listen to Resurrection Fern because I didn't get enough of that on,
South of South Georgia.
South of South Georgia.
Yeah.
Which is even a better song than Resurrection Fern. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. It's just like, I know that it's like the big song, that it was the single, and Dude, this is also my wife's favorite Iron and Wine album, and she talks about that song, but that song just does not do it for me.
Okay. Well, I will say, here's the thing. Yeah, it doesn't, it doesn't do it for me, but I definitely I definitely skip Resurrection Fern.
Oh, that's fair.
Like, I'll probably even pick up the needle.
Whoa.
Pick up the needle skip. I mean, maybe I won't. It depends how full my drink is.
Wow.
If I'm on my way for a refill.
Dude, it is 450. It's like the second longest song on the album. So understand your point there.
Yeah, it just doesn't, I don't know. That song doesn't do a ton for me either. Boy with a Coin at least moves. For me, I'm going to assume that being that there's, yeah, I don't know, dude. Where does it jump on the record? Oh, good question, man. Blech. What do we got here? Does it even say?
Is it 6 and 6?
I'm gonna have to pull it out.
Seems like it would be. I bet it is based on the times.
Not pulling it out for air. We're splitting the record right after Innocent Bones.
Yeah, 6 and 6.
Between Innocent Bones and Wolves.
Well, that's a bummer because I was gonna say if I were to start the second side, I'd just go over a few grooves, but I do like the song of the Shepherd's Dog. So
I will say, if we were gonna go into overtime, my
wow,
my second one would be Flightless Bird, American Mouth.
Really?
It's a fine song. I just feel like it doesn't really fit the album, and like, if you're gonna put it anywhere, I'm glad it's at the end. But I'm just like, it's okay. It's just not. It's just I like the weirdness and sort of all the sounds and effects and everything going on in the album. And Resurrection Fern and Flightless Bird don't have that kind of aesthetic to their structure.
I appreciate your point there.
What's the point, Ventura?
So there we have it. It's scratched.
Settled.
Iron and Wine making their debut with their not debut album.
Exactly.
I am impressed that they got it all on a single LP at almost 50 minutes.
50 minutes. It's pretty good. I'm a fan.
Makes you think. Anyways.
All right. Well, everyone, please let us know what your favorite track on the album is. Let us know what track you would scratch, because that's what we do here. We scratch tracks, even if we don't want to.
Why are we right? Why are we wrong?
Yeah,
like, subscribe, and comment below.
All right. Until next time, time to go.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by Moore and the Tims. Copyright 2021, The Dude and Grim Show.